front of me here today are people who have poured their hearts and souls and put their life into this organization, and they are forced to stand outside the door, and their union is forced to pay the bill in terms of representing them at these proceedings and doing all the other things that we've attempted to do over the last year or so in terms of protecting people's pensions, both at Fraser's, at Abitibi-Bowater, at CanWest Global, and the list goes on and on across the country. And you know, it's time. Everybody knows. In fact, I was just asked a question a minute ago. You would think that they would have learned from Nouveau-Brunswick. And damn right, they should have learned from Nouveau-Brunswick. And they appear to have learned nothing from Nouveau-Brunswick. That we're still sitting in the same boat today as we were when it went down in Nouveau-Brunswick and people got treated as harshly as that they did there. So here we are again with the real people standing in front of our Legislative Assembly, once again asking for our government to provide some assistance, to do something, to get off of their butt, and do something about the situation that we all find ourselves in today. Brothers and sisters, as we stand here today, the plan for the Fraser Paper Group in Evanston, their plan is currently at a rate of solvency of 64%. That means that they wind up that pension plan today, pensioners would get 64% of what they currently expect to get for 100% of their pension. Their plan, just in Evanston alone, is in a deficit of $79.4 million, and that should never have happened. It should never have happened if the law had been enforced the way it should have been, if the people monitoring that were doing their jobs. That would have not happened at Fraser's, it would have not have happened at Abitibi-Bowater, it would not have happened at any of the companies that currently find themselves at risk today. Yes. Now I want to talk, I'm trying to be fair, but you know, sometimes that's not so easy. We've indicated, we actually gave our government a bit of a heads up today that we would be here. And you know, we shouldn't probably be too fair, but you know, I phoned last week. I said, look, we're going to be here. We're going to ask some questions, and we'd like some answers. We understand that you've got enough on your plate with trying to sell the hydro and trying to sell people on a whole lot of other things, but we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the fact that on November the 17th, our union, our national president, David Coles, myself, and Pat Roy came to this city, and we met with the Premier's office, Doug Tyler from the Premier's office, and we put a proposal to Doug Tyler and this government that suggested that there is a way to protect the pensions of the people, not only at Fraser's, but at Abitibi-Bowater and any other place where they're in CCAA. We put a solid proposal in front of our government. We didn't design that proposal. We actually hired the accountants, the actuaries, and the right people from Montreal. In fact, we brought one of those accountants with us to verify that, in fact, our proposal had merit and did have potential to protect the pensions of people from Evanston and from Fraser's. We had an acknowledgement at that meeting that, in fact, the proposal had a lot of merit, that, in fact, that it was urgent, that, in fact, they understood that this week, this Thursday, that Fraser Papers is going before the courts with its own plan to restructure, and that restructuring will eliminate a lot of people and leave a lot of questions unanswered about the employees' pension plan. And they understood that they needed to get it back to us as quickly as possible with an answer and indicate whether or not they're prepared to move forward with it. That proposal would require our government to pass some regulations, some legislation, to put in place law to transport those pension plans, if they go bankrupt, into a pension trust. That pension trust would have automatically, by the fact that it's moved into a trust, would have been treated as a going concern, which would mean that automatically that pension fund would have been 15% at least higher than what it would be if it got treated as a wind-up. It also gave us an opportunity to grow that pension plan for Fraser's and people who were responsible for putting money into that plan to put money back into it. It also gave them an opportunity to get around that piece of that part of restructuring and creating a company and keeping the mill open in Evanston and keeping jobs there. That plan would have in our view, been a very good way to protect the pensions. In fact, you know, our Premier has been very good at lately saying, you know, that's my plan, what's yours? Well, you know, we put that plan forward on the 17th of November, and we haven't heard anybody from government suggest one way yet to protect your plan. In fact, what we heard today, what we heard confirmed today, was what's even more bizarre and more perverse is that our government has taken a 35% stake in the new company that they're proposing to make in Edmonton, called Nouveau today. God knows what it'll be called tomorrow. But they've taken a 35% stake at, for the not 35%, $35 million stake in the new company. So, you know what that means? Why it's perverse? Is because all of the pensioners who worked all their lives to get a decent pension plan are left to stand outside the door. They're considered to be unsecured creditors. They don't get a chance to argue that, you know, I get my money first. The only people who do that are not really people at all. They're organizations. They're governments, and they're anybody but a human face like we see standing here today.
It's a shame!
So while you stand on the outside, and you stand here, and you can't even stand on the steps, they get preferred shares in the new company.
Magic.
So they get standing as secured creditors, and of course they'll get looked after. While you take a 40% reduction in your pension. And that's not right, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're not going away, and that's why today, even though I'm getting a little wound, I'm trying to be polite, but today the message is to remind them that they told us on November the 17th they would get back to us.
They didn't.
They haven't gotten back to us, and so today we're here to politely remind them that they made a promise that they haven't kept. The next time we come here, it won't be 300 people. It'll be the whole crowd. And we won't be so nice. And it's time that people in our legislative assembly, quite frankly, got off their butt and dealt with this problem. It's a huge problem across the country. And you know, even governments like Alberta and BC today are saying, look, if our federal government can't do it and lead the way, we're going to do it on our own because we recognize that this is a big problem. When the mill went down in Grand Falls, Newfoundland, Abitibi Bowater Mill, Danny Williams, for all of whatever you might think about Danny Williams, stepped forward and put $40 million on the table and said, fix the problem for the workers. They should come first.
That's it.
What is happening here? By contrast, our government is saying, we want a stake in that. You know, so there's just something completely wrong with that, and it's got to get fixed. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm glad that we had this opportunity today. I wish that one of these days we could do something like this on a nice July day instead of, a cold of the winter. But here we are, and we'll be here if it's snowing the next time, and we'll be here in much bigger numbers.
So!